MERCY Chinwo's issue. We had so many issues over the years from the body they fear anybody.
Hey, my country people, MERCY Chinwo record label saga. Stick around to the end and hear what is going on. Thank you so much. So guys, let's dive right to the news.
Of Bada. I'm sure there's a lot of things to say, and of course Gang, who is also in radio, we can talk about this. There's been so many issues over the years from the P-Square brothers to MERCY Chinwo's issue. We had Kiss Daniel, who he had to change the spelling of his name
to Kiss.
Kiss, exactly. And then we also had Runtown, who was run out of town musically because of all of this.
You've been waiting to say that, I'm sure.
So let's dive into it. Let's define what royalties are, because I feel a lot of Nigerians don't understand it, and once there's a buzz in social media, everyone wants to say something without really understanding what royalties are. I want to start with you, because you deal in television and media
and work in music as well.
And music. So can you help define it in the simplest term possible?
So royalties are the payments or the revenues that recorded or music that is performed live or written down, right, earns from usage by third parties over time. So typically, music will belong to a number of entities. Usually, you would have record companies who own some of the publishing. You would have songwriters, the creatives, the producer, the songwriter, the singer. So there's something called the split sheet, right, which is a document that says how much each of those individuals contributed.
Contributed.
Yes. So their revenues, their share of revenue is always proportional to the contribution they made. So on the split sheet, the contribution they made. So if the three of us make a record, make a song, and I sing a verse, you sing a verse, he sings a verse. But you sing the chorus as well, and you produce.
I get more share.
So you get more points. We call it, we get more points, like percentages. So say you get 60%. I get 20, he gets 20. All right? So the points that are documented on the split sheet is how payment, when what we call the mechanicals are calculated, right? So let's say the music gets on DSPs, digital streaming platforms, the Apple Musics of this world, the Spotifys of this world, the Audio Marks and co. At the end of the month, right, those people calculate their revenues from ad revenue, from streaming, the subscription that the people who streamed paid. And then they give you a share of listens, right? So if our song got that month, say 0.5% of total listens, he gets about 4.5% of total revenues. Right? And so when they pay the money to us, the money is paid based on the points that were allocated on the split sheet originally. So you get 60% of that revenue, he gets 20, I get 20.
So it's $1 million, I get 600. You get
exactly.
Why do I get 20? I'm not even on the song.
Because I sang the chorus.
I'm not even on the song. You are the listener. So listen. You are the one streaming. Thank you, by the way. Thank you.
So broadly, that's how mechanicals work. So and then there are four mechanicals. There are what you call earnings from recorded music. So when the CD is bought, we're away from the CD era, but there are still parts of the world where people still buy CDs, all right? Vinyls, for instance.
Vinyls,
people still buy them. Even though in this part, we say, my father or my grandfather used to listen to vinyls.
There are some music heads that say vinyls sound better than CDs.
Absolutely. And then in the same way people collect artwork, some people collect vinyls, just as status symbol. So rich people, mega rich people do that. So when you purchase music in that form, right, the royalties that accrue from usage, right, go back to the people who made the music. And then you talk about performance royalties. So when you get on stage and you play, there's a portion of the ticket revenue that is given to you, right? that also forms royalties. And when other people perform your music, so that record the three of us made, when other people perform it, right? Some of the monies that people pay to listen to it should come back to us. Then there's something we call sync licensing, where someone is recording, is making a movie in Nollywood and says, the song that this guy has made will be good as a soundtrack.
Yes.
Right? So they use it on the film, they pay us. Someone makes a commercial and thinks, this should be the soundtrack for the commercial, they license it and they pay us for that. So all of those, revenues, they're called residuals broadly, because you're sitting in your house and your music is making money. And is making money.
And it happens in film and television too.
Absolutely. Okay. But in this part, and he's making money.
And it happens in film and television too.
Absolutely. Okay. But in this part, what you find is, because there is no real structure and laws and enforcement, you still find a lot of radio stations, for instance, most radio stations don't actually pay royalties.
That's true. I can verify that for you.
Yeah, when you play people's music on air, radio is ad supported. The biggest revenue stream is advertising.
Yes.
It's only fair that if our music helped in getting listenership, we should get a slice of the pie.
Oh, yes.
Yeah. But there's no enforcement.
No,
but we'll get there.
You ain't going to see it. You ain't going to see it.
So that's how it works broadly.
Oh, nice.
So I want to ask you, I think the same thing applies to television. In your experience in broadcasting, what are the things that you feel can be improved over time? And I know you have a personal, personal information on a particular situation, which is also
MERCY CHINWO. Yes.
And so let's start with television.
Television, yeah.
What are the things you think could have been done better? Because I think royalties too, the same principle applies to television. What are the things you think can be improved on?
I think the structures in the industry would be like in abroad. They have in America, I think they have the Nielsen ratings, where they know that they know the number of eyeballs that watch this TV show. So when advertisers come, they'll be like, put me on the best rated television shows, the ones that have high viewership. So you have the ratings there. You know that, okay, Suits is at this time, this number of people that watch it.
Yeah.
So you as a TV station that you're airing, some of these TV stations own the TV series or the movies, so they make money from there. But the problem is we don't have that kind of structure here. Yeah. We don't know how many people watched Super Story, watched Who Wants to Be a Millionaire, watched Big Brother. I think they know, because Big Brother is a cable-based production whereby they know how many people watch. It's digitalized. Yes, they know that. So it's easier. But for terrestrial TV, if we put, like right now, I don't know if you guys know how many people are watching now based on, I don't think so.
We have a rough estimate.
It's called the diary system. So it's not scientific. You can't empirically verify it.
Okay.
But the good news is...
talk to me.
Good news is
don't tell me digitalization.
No.
Okay.
So globally, the audience measurement system is called TAM or TAMS. It's an acronym for Television Audience Measurement or Television Audience Measurement System, right? Yeah. And Nigeria, the government of Nigeria has been investing in delivering this technology to the
just
media
like they were
industry.
Investing in digitalization for more than a decade now.
So the DSO project stalled, and they've switched from digital terrestrial television, which would have required them to do point-to-point connections,
which are those boxes, I believe.
Yeah. But now they switch to DTH, which is satellite delivery.
Of course.
But with audience measurement, they actually have gotten to a very advanced stage where, by end of this year, Nigeria, which contributes Lagos, which contributes about 90% of the ad spend in the Nigerian
90%?
Ad spend in Nigerian advertising space, will be fully covered for monitoring. So they're installing panels, they're installing what they call people meters, with which they can tell who's watching what for how long, all of those. So we're very close to having what you call a seller's market, what we've had all along is a buyer's market where brands say, this is how much we have.
This is how much we have.
Exactly. But as he said, you should be able to tell this show, not only the size of the audience, but the demographics. It's young adults, age this to this,
the
who
age
watch
bracket,
it. And there's also what we call average time spent, ATS. So you can tell how much someone actually sat and watched the show for. So if they didn't watch the entirety of the show, you can tell. Which is why for the NFL playoffs, the Super Bowl is priced not necessarily on the total audience that watches the final. It's on the people who watch the halftime show. Because that's when viewership peaks. Not during the game.
Not during the game.
Exactly. Because they know they can tell.
Nice.
So, gang, in your experience in radio, why do you think there's always an issue with artists and managements and record labels and all of that? I was with D-Tunes some weeks back, and he was talking about so many things, and I'm like, how do you guys survive? I mean, record label owners, producers, and all of that. So in your experience in radio, because obviously you would have encountered a thing or two,
it all comes
what do you think, causes that?
It all comes down to money and man's greed.
Causes that?
It all comes down to money and man's greed, in a nutshell. Once money is involved, even the holiest of them tend to have some kind of conflict. In radio, like he said, similar to there was a time Koson tried to implement some kind of structure, but they did it wrong. I remember they approached my brand at the time and were saying, you guys have thrived off Nigerian content. You owe us just an example, you owe us 2 billion naira.
Very annoying.
Do you understand? They'll come and start saying, when did you establish this station? And from now, so you guys owe us 2 billion naira. If not, we'll call blah, blah, blah and shut you down. You know, that process. So where do you expect me to get 2 million naira from? And then when we give you the 2 billion, it was 2 billion, they said. When we give you the 2 billion, how are we sure it's going to get to the artists? So let me tell you what happened. Inside story. It was just like, you know what? Delete all Nigerian music on our platform. The Americans that we're playing, they don't get royalties from Africa because they don't register Africa as
part of their engine.
Do you understand? So they don't get royalties from Africa, so we can play their stuff. We can play other Africans. Forget Nigerian music. We're not playing Nigerian music anymore. Delete everything. Do you know what now happened? The artists themselves came through and said, please play my musical. I am not a part of this organization. So that was the problem. Artists had not signed up to Koson at the time. They were not under that umbrella. Back to the
structural challenge.
Exactly. So they were not under that umbrella. So artists were like, you know what, please, I'm not a part of these guys. You can play my songs. Don't worry about my royalties. So they basically gave up that. Because what they want is for their songs to be played, to be heard, and become famous. They'll make their money off endorsements and shows and streams and whatever. You get where I'm coming from? And that's the reason why I think the streaming platform is picking up more, because artists now see that they can make their money back from streams and not exactly from radio play. Because how do you even calculate it? How many times did I play this P-Square song? Who tracks it? I played
we log it on Radio Nigeria. We went into the culture of logging all the songs we played, be it foreign.
I hope they still do that up till today.
Well, I left many years ago.
So do you understand? So that's the problem.
We had that culture.
A lot of news stations now don't even practice what he's talking about.
No. So Radio Nigeria is like the standard.
So you can't ascertain that I played Whiskey 100 times. So from 100 times, how much do I owe him?
Exactly.
And how much do I pay back? And then the funny thing, there are bigger radio stations like we are, like at the top of the food chain. And then there are stations down there that are not making as much money, but they're all playing the same music.
So that the key point is what you just mentioned. Now, if you approach a media channel or a media platform to pay royalties, you're assuming that they make monies from which they should pay.
Exactly.
So if their revenues are being held up by agencies, they haven't even paid staff, and all these issues that threaten their continued existence, they're not going to pay. So that's the real issue, because say for instance, platform A makes a revenue of 200 million, and the royalties that they should pay on all music played within the month comes to about 20 million. They probably will pay. Do you understand? They probably will pay. But if they made 50 million, but would only get paid next year or in 2 years' time by the agencies.
About 20 million still.
And how would you define it?
They pay money they don't.
Do you understand? It is common knowledge that the perception out there is that the media doesn't pay well.
Yeah.
And the reason the media is, perceived to not pay well is because the media platforms don't make enough money to pay, right? So there's not enough money being made, and some of the monies that are being made are stuck with the agencies. Okay. So if you resolve some of those issues, right, and there's money, if you come to me, if you come to me and say there's an estate fee that I'm not aware of, that's about 5,000 naira. Do you understand? I'm probably not going to argue so much because it's such a negligible
amount of
percentage of my income.
Of your income. Yeah.
But if you show up and my income is 500K and you say there's a fee of 250K, even though it's legitimate, there will be resistance. I'm going to tell you, no way, I'm not paying it. And that's what happens. So it's not like media owners don't know that they should pay royalties. It's just that they're struggling to keep the lights on. They're struggling to pay salaries. So why do you want to add another layer?
Do they pay salaries though?
Exactly. You're adding another layer of difficulty on top of it. And when we do get audience measurement, as a first step, things will sort of recalibrate because now when you can tell this is how much share of audience I have. You can put a rate on that. Like he said, the HBOs who do like Game of Thrones, those are like premium shows. They're going to bill, top dollar for you to advertise to their audience. So it's either you want to pay it or you don't. Or you don't. You don't negotiate.
So they determine.
They determine the price point. So they make so much money. And that's why, the cast, the crew, you will hear they get paid $5 million for being because there's so much money. So if someone shows up and says, "Oh, you owe me X amount for royalty,"
you can have it.
They just send you to
you can have
the unit where you reconcile. Say, okay, we played for X amount of times, and you cut you a check.
At the same time, I think even some artists, performers, producers, writers, they don't even know their rights. They just signed a contract and they haven't studied it long enough to know how to even chase their money, to know what they have access to know what they're entitled to. Some of the artists don't know. They just want a deal. They just want to be heard. They just want to be played. So they don't know anything about royalties. They don't understand publishing. They don't know that this record, you can eat off it for the rest of your life. And they're just...
Nobody they fear anybody. That Nigeria must be better. We stand against oppression.
We expect you to do whatever you want to do. No matter how long you lock VDM up, we must free Nigerians from oppressors. And if you feel oppressed by this my video, my name is Okokowa Ogaga. And if you feel like I am trying to defame you, you can go legal. But I've said what I've said. More will be exposed.